Guys, it is so exciting, and you might not think that this is the most exciting time to be a pre-med, but it is. And you're saying, but look, you're letting me shadow you via Zoom. So it cannot be that exciting. But I promise you it actually is, because you get the opportunity to tap into so many people in such a short period of time, and it exposes you to so many more specialties than the previous years. So let me give you an example. When I was in your shoes and I was a undergrad at University of Maryland, in order for me to shadow somebody, and the person who actually probably got me into medical school, I had to skip class, tell the TA I was skipping class, tell the TA to tell the professor, because University of Maryland is humongous. And then I hopped on the yellow line in the metro, well, took the bus from campus to the metro station at College Park, took the yellow line, got into DC, had to walk in the cold to see the doctor that I was going to shadow. Had to stay with him. And I only ended up seeing one person in like my 6-hour endeavor. So this is awesome that you have the opportunity to sit in your house. You probably have pajamas on. You may not have brushed your teeth, and that's okay, because you get to experience so much more. So I hope that you find the silver lining. COVID is horrible. It has changed all of our lives. You don't get to hang out with your friends like you want to, but you have an interesting opportunity to have a different take, experience medicine in a different way. Look at it as such an amazing opportunity for you, because for the rest of us, it was harder. So my name is Dr. Ruth Arumala, and I am an obstetrician gynecologist. I do mostly gynecologic surgery in Mansfield, Texas. I own my own practice, and it's affiliated with a big hospital, of which I am the head of the department of OBGYN. And I'm 34. I'm not ancient. So how did I get here? From being a 17-year-old bushy-eyed, back then I used to wear all back cornrows because it was cool at some point. You might not think so. And I used to, how did I get here? So how did I get here? University of Maryland, if you wanted to go into medicine, you really had two options. You were either a cellular, molecular, and biology, genetics. See, I'm kind of rolling my tongue over that. But we called it CMBG. I don't know if you guys still do. CMBG major, or you be a neuroscience major. I advise against that. If you are not already in college, I advise against all the things that they tell you have to be a doctor. No, you could be whatever you want to be. Guess what? If I could do it again, I would be a nutritionist. I would have done dietetics. I would have finished, and I would be a what? Nutritionist. When I finished cellular, molecular biology, and genetics, I was a nothing. I was a college grad. Because in order for you to be a biologist, you need to have a PhD. And I didn't have a PhD. So think about it. Think about, what if you have to take a gap year, which I love, and I'll talk about that. Do you want to work and earn big girl money, big boy money, right? Or are you going to work in a lab and make $22,000, and you will make more money working as a manager at Starbucks? Not to say anything's wrong with that, but you would. So look for something that you really love. One of my all-time favorites is biomedical engineering. I tell all my nieces and nephews that think that they want to be me, you've got to do something because engineering, when you're done, you're an engineer. You think about the world differently. Medicine is more about memorization, and I actually call it a cult, because we all need to be brainwashed in order for you to see me. And I tell you the same thing as somebody in Bangladesh or Gaborone, Botswana, or Lagos, Nigeria. So we all have the same information, right? But engineers have to think about problem solving in a different way. And surgeons think about problem solving in a different way, because You can memorize all you want. When you open the anatomy, you see what you see. You got to be creative. So if you're not in medical school yet, I'm sorry, if you're not an undergrad yet, or you're in your first year, consider that when you're trying to pick your major. Do not pick a major that makes you, well, one, that you don't like. Don't pick something you don't like. And two, pick something that will allow you to facilitate a lifestyle when you finish undergrad if you don't go straight into medical school. Or you could do it concomitantly. I'll tell you, I made a lot of money as a medical student teaching aerobics. And I was fit and fly too. So those are things you should think about. How can you, because today's day and age, you're going to be in training for a long period of time. So how can you think about the longevity and living through that time? Because you don't want to wake up one day, a lot of people do this, and they're 32. They're a doctor, and so what? And so what? Did you develop yourself as a human being? Are you a nice person? Are you a generous person? Are you a kind person? Do you have other skills, other interests? Do you have a man, woman, side piece? Well, I don't know. Do you have something else? Do you even know what kind of music is out there? Do you know anything about politics? Do you know anything about the world? Like, what are you? You don't want to be just a doctor, because let me tell you something. My patients come to my practice, they hang out with me. I'm not just talking to them about their vaginal discharge. Well, I might talk to them about their vaginal discharge, but I'm also going to talk to them about their lives. I've got to have something else to talk to them about. That's what makes me different as a doctor. You just don't want to, here's your script, get out of my office. Here's your script, you won't have any patients. So those are things you think about, okay, when you're choosing a major. Now you're in college and you're almost done. And you're thinking to yourself, what's the next step? What am I going to do in terms of how do I get into medical school? There is something called Google. Google it first. Get your information. Look at medical schools that are in the area, geographical area that you want to be in. Or maybe you found out that I went to UMDNJ, or now Rowan. I went to Rowan. You want to know a little bit about where I went? You can Google it, find out their requirements. Never ever, and I'll say this, if you never remember what I say, remember this: never ever let requirements or what you think are requirements punk you. Don't let it punk you. Make sure that when you get those requirements, know that the person who did that is no better than you and no worse than you. You can do it. Write those requirements down. If they're saying you need a 3.7 GPA and you have a 3.4 GPA, you can still apply, because the worst they can say to you is no, and no never killed nobody. Okay? So it's okay to apply, and it's okay to get a whole heck of a lot of no's, because I bet you at some point somebody will give you a yes. So I'll give you an example. My medical school class was 134 people. It was 133 people until an hour before our white coat ceremony. During that hour before our white coat ceremony, we only knew this on the day of our graduation. The hour before the white coat ceremony, they called in our 134th student. Do you know why they called him in? He had applied to the same medical school as the solo applicant. That's the only medical school he applied to 5 years straight. 4 of those years, he got a no. The 5th year, he got a no. And he called and he got a no. And he said, I don't have any more money to apply. I don't have any more time to waste. At that point, I think he was like 35 already. Like, if this doesn't work, I'm done. And he was so persistent that they opened up, a donor gave enough money for him to open up another class. So I hope you know that no is not never. It might be delayed, but it's not never. Keep pushing, keep going after what you want. Don't let anybody, not your mama, she might love you, but she might project the fact that, one, she may not have been able to do it, and you're from her genes and from her loins, so she thinks, if I didn't do it, you can't do it. Or she might want to protect you. It might come from a place of love, because most parents do not want to see their kids take risks. And I'll say that again. Most parents don't want their kids to take risks, because risks can end with a lot of reward, but it can end in sorrow and despair. And most parents want to protect their kids. That's how they show love. But that's not what you need to be able to fill in the shoes that you were created to fill in. So don't let anybody tell you no. I have been told you're not good enough so many times in my life. You're never going to do this. You're never going to do that. And now at this stage, I don't care anymore. So I do it, and I take a selfie while I'm doing it, and I post it and I tag you, because I can be petty like that. So I want you to go after it, do it, and then text me about it, because I want to know that you're doing it, because you are worth your dream. So you're in college, you're trying to figure it out. The first thing you do is you're going to Google these things. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to ask your pre-med advisor. Not ask your pre-med advisor, can I do it? Because you can do it. You're asking them, what are the steps to do it? It is almost a cult. You need to make sure that you affiliate yourself with people who are either working in the medical school that you want to go to. If you don't have access to it, maybe you're shadowing like you're doing now. I encourage you to engage as much as you can. I want to take an aside and talk to you about how to approach a doctor, a resident, a medical student through social media. Social media makes people accessible, but it does not throw away decorum. I'll say that again. We are accessible, but we still need to garner your respect. So when you approach someone, and if you're writing notes, this is where you write notes. The first thing that you do is you introduce yourself and you put your level of training. So my name is Ruth Arumala. I am a sophomore at University of Maryland. The next thing you say is, I am this major. I am interested in going into medical school. And then the next thing you need to do is, I see that you are Dr. blah, 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 and you work in this field. Then you have to list specifically what you want from that person, because everybody's busy. So let me give you an example. Somebody sends me a message that says, hi, I want to be just like you when I grow up. Tell me everything you know about that. Excuse me, ma'am, you got 3 years of your life? Because obviously I can't do that in an email or a DM back. And it might put me off and I just block people. I don't do that, because I respond to every single person, because I know how hard it was for me. So I respond to everybody. But then I actually take the time to teach you guys how to do it. But a lot of the times my friends will I'm in group chats where my friends will just screenshot and be like, man, what's wrong with this student? Most of the time you just don't know. So you need to make sure that you do a little bit of research about who this person is and what they can help you with. Here are the levels of what people can help you with. Medical students can help you get into medical school. I can't get you into medical school. I can't. I took the last paper and pencil MCATs that was 8 hours long, August 2000, and guess what? I'm about to name 2006. So I don't know what the MCAT's like. I have no clue. So I can't help you get about how to study for your MCATs. I can tell you general things, and this you should remember. Make sure you take a course. Do not wing it. Do not go to Barnes & Noble and buy a book and wing it. Do not do that. Take a course, because everybody else is going to be in medical school took a course. It's better that you set, the medical school journey is so expensive, so you might as well start put in that $1,000 or whatever it costs now and do it, because everybody else is doing it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you know, residents can tell you what the resident life is like. I recommend that nobody ever really ask an intern about their life in terms of medicine, because internship, I didn't know my left from my right. I had no clue. It's so busy. The learning curve is so high. I literally told everyone that asked me, don't go into medicine. It sucks. Okay? So ask second year, third year residents, fellows, when you're talking to an attending, it's good to talk to an attending about what the actual job is like. Because my life in residency was trash. My life now is amazing. I would not give it up for the world. And if you would have told me when I was a resident, this is the life I was going to live, I would have told you a lie. You lie. But it is so true. It's a glorious life. And I'm doing what I thought I was going to do when I sit in your shoes. This is how I'm going to impact the world. So big overview, talk to an attending. Finding out about a residency program, particular residency program, talk to a resident or a fellow. Find out how to get into medical school, talk to a medical student. That is what I would explain to you, okay? So I've kind of talked for a little while, and I want to see if you guys can start to answer some of the questions there, because I see the chat is like popping off. So I want to see whether I can answer specific questions for you guys. Okay, somebody said, what is a day in my life like? And also, I think the moderators are gonna help me with this, but what is a day in my life?
I'll help you with that.
Yeah, so day in my life, my life has no days that ever repeat itself. Just like I don't repeat my outfits, my days don't repeat themselves. So, but yeah, so my days are, OBGYN's days are not predicted, but let's give you like a typical day. My clinic opens at 9. I am the only one on call 24/7. Right now I'm on call, so my phone is right here. It might pop off really soon. But I see a mix of mostly GYN. I was only seeing about 10% until recently, but I see about 20% pregnant women. So that's the OB part. I have an ultrasound in my office. I do a lot of ultrasounds because I like to see what's going on. I do procedures in the office, include pap smear is not really considered a procedure, but I do colposcopies. That's what I use the microscope. It's like a scope, like a microscope, but it's a macroscope maybe, and it blows up the cervix so I can look at it and see when things are abnormal. I do what we call endo-C. Endo-C is office hysteroscopy. So breaking down the Latin words, hyst is always considered the uterus because men created gynecology and they thought that women are too hysterical. So the name hyst came from that being hysterical. There's a movement to change that, the name of a hysterectomy to a uterectomy. But in any event, that's a hyst. And then scope is a camera. So it's a camera that enters into the uterus and looks at the uterus inside of it. I do a lot of those for women that have a lot of different issues. And then I do something called FemView. FemView is an injection of saline and air. And basically, you inject it in through the cervix in through the vagina into the cervix, and it goes in through the uterus and it spills out to the fallopian tubes. So I use the ultrasound to see if the bubbles go through the fallopian tube so that I can see if the fallopian tube is open. That's really to check for fertility. those are the procedures that most of the procedures I do in the office. Sometimes I do shaved biopsies, stuff like that. There are other procedures that other physicians do in the office. I don't like to do them in the office because I love my patients and I want them to be as comfortable as possible. So I do them in the surgery center. In the surgery center, I do bigger hysteroscopies that involve me actually taking out fibroids or polyps, and I do all of that under direct visualization. Sometimes I resect women. There were some women that are born with like abnormal uteruses where they have like a divider called a septum in their uterus, so I shave those off. And then I do LEAP procedures, which is where we take out part of the cervix with women who have precancerous cells. I also do laparoscopy. Oh, I should back this up. OBGYN, we do at least 4 modalities of surgery. We do vaginal surgeries. We do laparoscopic surgery, we do open surgery, we do rheumatic surgery, and then the 5th is obstetric surgery, such as vacuums to deliver a baby, repairs of the vagina when the vagina kind of tears when you're delivering a baby, and C-sections. So I do all modalities. I do almost every single procedure. I think basically every single procedure, I've learned all of it. Most of it wasn't during my training. I go for a lot of courses. I do basically a course every month. So that's kind of my days. I see some patients in the office. I deliver babies. I do surgery. I do procedures in the office. I'm kind of a little like a lot of you. I'm very much an organized person. I like to like this and I like things done. But in OBGYN, I've had to let go of that control. Next question.
That was, yeah, a lot of people were very surprised to hear about the root of hysterectomy. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of questions and I'll kind of summarize them. So someone asked, is there any room for medical innovations to reduce the mortality rate of Black women during childbirth? And then kind of going off of that, how important to you is the fact that as a Black female, you own, your own practice in a field of medicine that has a disproportionately higher rate of mortality and mistreatment during childbirth?
That's a really good question. And of course, it's really been brought to the forefront with Dr. Wallace passing away on October 22nd, 2020. It's something that I'm so emotional about. I actually haven't talked about it on my social media much because I'm very emotional about it, because she's me. She's like any one of us. She's a pediatrician, and she lost her baby because of complications of preeclampsia. We don't all know details, but preeclampsia is something I take care of very often. So maternal mortality is a very difficult thing to talk about and to think about and to try to solve because it's multifactorial. It's rooted deeply in the fact that, unfortunately, medicine was not created with Black women in mind. In general, medicine in general, not OBGYN, but medicine. The father of OBGYN is Dr. Sims, modern gynecology, they say, in the United States. Dr. Sims is somebody that I have abject, I don't use the word hatred for very often, but I have abject hatred for. Because if you read about him, he actually used to take slaves to experiment on them, slave Black women. And he used to put in metallic spoons into their vaginas, like huge ones, and will open it to be able to see the cervix. And that's actually how the speculum was formed, right? So the history of medicine is very important to me because it explains a lot of what's happening in medicine today. There's a famous quote, and I can't think about who said it, but if you don't know history, you're bound to repeat it. So I'm very interested in medical history and medical anthropology. So that's why I know all these backstories. But with that being said, that's one of the things that, if medicine wasn't created for Black women, then it's going to be very hard to adapt it to that. Some of the things that can solve it are, number one, education, teaching women, you need to attend your prenatal appointments, because the truth of the matter is a lot of the time you don't trust your doctor, so you don't go where you don't trust the person, right? So that's one issue. Making sure that implicit personal bias from the health provider is, if you don't want to, if you don't, you shouldn't be in this field of medicine if you can't take care of everyone and take care of everyone adequately. Number three is working on the hospital to make sure that they take into consideration Black women and making sure that, you know, that part of medicine is not forgotten, and that there's representation in every level, including on the executive board, which I thank God I have the opportunity to do. The number four is ensuring that Black women are Black people in general are invited into the provider roles, in roles that make decisions, like being an obstetrician gynecologist, being a physician in general, being a surgeon. Next, it would be ensuring that, you know, there are the barriers to care, such as not having insurance or not knowing that you can get Medicaid when you are pregnant, making sure that Medicaid is shored up and that more providers are able to give Medicaid. Because the truth of the matter is, I accept Medicaid for that one reason. It is horrific how they pay us back. I could do something and commercial insurance is going to give me $300 and Medicaid will give me $8. Okay, so I don't fault a lot of women for not accepting Medicaid, or not a lot of providers for not accepting Medicaid, but I accept it because I know the population that I am born to serve. Lastly, you know, a lot of studies have shown that if your provider looks like you tend to trust your providers more. And so I have a lot of patients who tell me, I've never heard a provider talk to me like you. And so, I mean, I remember this vivid story of one of my co-residents who did not know what Black and Milds were. She was like, who the heck smokes Black Milds? I'm like, no, it's Black and Milds. Nobody's out there smoking Black rats. So those are things that we need to do. But I think it's easier said than done. I think it's a systemic issue. I think it's going to take a generation of us fighting and you guys' generation pushing it forward, because you're Generation Z. I'm a millennial. So, okay. I hope that answers you guys' questions.
Yes, thank you so much for that insight. That was amazing. There were several questions asking, you know, what made you choose the DO path and how do you incorporate osteopathic manipulation in your practice now?
Okay, so I am a proud DO. I applied to both MD programs and DO programs. I got into both. I got scholarships to both, academic scholarships. And then I chose to become a DO because you will go to schools. I hope that by the time most of you are applying, you can actually go to the school, because you will have this it factor. Most people do, not everybody, but most people have this factor when they walk in the school, they know they belong there. That has always been it for me when it comes to school. Now, when it comes to dating, not really, but when it comes to school, I know as soon as I'm there, or my job, I know that's where I'm supposed to be. You feel that you match there. And I felt that way with the DO school, but I was kind of concerned, like many of you probably are, like, am I going to be afforded the same opportunities as somebody else that went to MD school? So my mom is an MD, and my mom told me, she said, let me tell you, the finest doctors I know are DOs. So that was already a boost. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And then the doctor that I told you the situation about in the beginning, where I went and spent 6 hours to shadow him for like 2 hours, he was a DO, and he was like the most fabulous man. Fabulous in the sense that he was so knowledgeable, he was so empathetic, he was so loving, and he was the choice for almost every senator's wife in DC. So I'm like, this man must know what he's doing. And then I kind of called him, I was kind of torn, and he said to me, no, you should be a DO. Meeting you, you're gonna make a fine DO. You're gonna stand up for, you know, our community. Because DOs when I was in medical school, there were 3% of physician population, and a lot of them did family medicine or DO, OMM or NMM, which is the neuromuscular manipulation. So they all kind of stayed in their own niche. They didn't really branch out like our generation is doing. And so I was like, you know what? That's how I chose it. Now, it didn't hurt to have a full scholarship, tell you that. No loans, wonderful. But so that's how I chose that. Now, when students come to me and ask me about becoming a DO, I will say that if you want to become, and this is my opinion, this is no one else's opinion but mine. If you want to be a neurosurgeon, an ENT, a plastic surgeon, a dermatologist, those are the 4 things I would tell you to consider MD. Now, every single one of these 4, my classmates that went to medical school with me are those. They're dermatologists. I have 2 neurosurgeons that were in my class. I have 6 dermatologists from my class, 6 out of 144 now, or sorry, 134 now. There are 2 ENTs, and I don't know what the other one I told you, but those are all things that can touch the face. So those are the most common, or those are the most competitive. Optometrists. There's not an ophthalmologist. Sorry, there's not an ophthalmologist from my class, but there was one for the class below me. And those are the most competitive fields in medicine. Other than that, you want to be an orthopedic surgeon, go ahead. OB, go ahead. Radiologist, anesthesiologist, any of them, you're fine. Choose what works for you, geographical area, and what feels right. You know, what feels right.
That was perfect. I know a lot of people needed to hear that. I know a lot of people ask about that, so it's perfect. We also had a question.
Somebody just asked, what about psychiatry? My best friend is a psychiatrist. She, from medical school, she went to Dartmouth for her residency, Yale for her fellowship. I'm gonna brag on her. Yale for her fellowship. She lives in California and she has her own practice and she's absolutely fabulous. My roommate from college at University of Maryland also went to the same medical school, but we would never live together again. She's messy, I'm not. And so she's a psychiatrist and she has her own practice in Arlington, Virginia. Neurology is also good for DO programs.
That was so cute. I love when you brag about like your friends and their success as well. Someone asked, I guess kind of going off of this, you mentioned that you do a little bit of everything. You do gynecological surgery and take care of fertility issues. Does this mean if someone is interested in gynecological oncology and reproductive endocrinology and fertility, do they need to do a fellowship, or as long as they do an OBGYN residency, they can do all of those?
So OBGYN is a specialty that you can go into if you have multiple personalities, or if you have a personality, you can find your personality in OBGYN. So the subspecialties of OBGYN are the following. Gynecologic surgery is broken down into the upper part that deals with fibroids and endometriosis. I'm a fibroid specialist. I did a year of fibroid unofficial fellowship, and unofficial because your girl did. I am allergic to being broke. So it was a very well-paid fellowship. They have unpaid fellowships. They have poorly paid fellowships. That was not my ministry, so no. But you can go into gynecologic surgery, and the upper part is fibroids and endometriosis. The lower is an actual accredited gynecology, and that's called urogynecology or pelvic. What do they call themselves? They have some silly name that they call themselves, but that actually has its own board. So it used to be urogynecology. I think it's pelvic medicine and rehabilitation. Pelvic medicine and reconstruction. They give themselves some silly name. And then, so that's GYN surgery. Somebody asked, can you just do GYN surgery? That's my plan. I'm going to drop OB very soon. You just have to you can do whatever you want in medicine. They just lie to you and tell you can't do. That's why I told you, many people tell you can't do stuff. You do whatever you want to do once you're a doctor. Like, You create your own path. Number two, it is, there is actually a niche called reproductive surgery, and that's kind of what I do, is reproductive surgery. It's also an unaccredited thing. So we do all the cases to help the reproductive endocrinologists who also do surgery, but hate to do surgery because they make a lot more money not doing surgery. Their clinic and their IVF and ICSI and all the things that they do. So that's a 3-year fellowship after the 4-year. Oh, I should have been saying this as I was going along. So the accredited GYN surgery fellowships are 2 years. The unaccredited is 1 year, like what I did. And I did mine in Oklahoma. And then there is the reproductive surgery fellowship that is 1 year. There are only 4 in the country. And then there is reproductive endocrinologist, and this is after the 4 years of OBGYN. Reproductive endocrinology, that's 3-year fellowship. There is high-risk high-risk OB, no GYN, this high-risk OB. That's also, they also called MFMs or perinatologists. That's 3 years. You can add a 4th year for genetics. There is family planning, that's 2 years. There is, I think I hit it all. I think there's now trans medicine, which might be 1 year. And I'm going to tell you guys a secret. You can do almost anything you want. So those are the other things you can do in medicine. Now, the OBGYNs, there are OBGYNs that most OBGYNs don't feel comfortable doing a lot of, like I don't do endometriosis surgeries, right? Because my training was just on fibroid surgeries, and I do everything for fibroids that an OBGYN can do. So, and there are some people who wouldn't want to do half the surgeries I do. I have a friend, she only does vaginal surgery. She does not do, I do robotic, vaginal, laparoscopic, open. She only does vaginal surgery. She doesn't have, she'll transfer to somebody else. There are people who only do robotic surgery. There are people who only do laparoscopic surgery. I had surgery 2.5 weeks ago for my fibroids, and my surgeon, who's my mentor, only does laparoscopic surgery. And so she did laparoscopic surgery. I taught myself robotic surgery because she didn't, when she mentored me, she didn't do robotics, and she still doesn't do robotics. So I hope that answers you guys' questions for that.
Oh, that was perfect. Actually, this is an interesting one because yesterday we had Dr. Tripathi tell us that OBGYNs get sued the most for malpractice than any other specialty. And so someone wanted to know how you deal with that, if that's something that scares you or scares a lot of people from going into that specialty.
True. That's a really good question. It doesn't really scare me. I don't even think about it because I do my best for my patients, right? Like, it's all you can do. I do my best. I review their charts. I talk to them. I help them. I do drop patients that are not compliant. I can do that. I will give you a warning. Like, I do not actually have, I don't take any patients that smoke at all. So if you are a cigarette smoker, I had a patient yesterday who's a cigarette smoker. I'm going to work with her. I give her a month to stop smoking. If she doesn't stop smoking, I'll transfer her. And she knows that on day one. I tell you, I do not take patients that smoke because the outcomes are horrible. And you're not going to tell me about your kid's poor IQ at 18 that it was something that I did during your delivery when you smoked. So it doesn't bother me at all. It might, and also saying that OBGYNs in general, OBs in general get sued the most. But GYN, not so much. It's just like any other surgery. I mean, I guess they get sued for botched surgeries. I mean, the truth of the matter is you're not scared if you are well prepared and you do your very best and you explain to patients your limitations. When patients like you, they don't sue you. That's just the truth, even if somebody dies.
Thank you. I think people were surprised to hear that, so thank you for those insights. So kind of going back to medical school, were there any other specialties that you had thought about that you wanted to do that you almost went into? Talk on that a little bit.
So I was the latest of late bloomers when it comes to OBGYN. I thought I was going to be a dermatologist. You guys will probably have figured out my personality by now, but I thought I was going to be a dermatologist and I was going to do Botox to the stars. Pretty much that's it. I went to medical school to become a dermatologist, not to become a doctor. And I had gotten into so my brother passed away when I was a second year medical student, right before I took my USMLE. And so after I took my USMLE, I was like, I can't keep doing this. I need a break. So I applied for a dermatology fellowship, research fellowship in Gaborone, Botswana, through UPenn, University of Pennsylvania. How did I find out about it? Google. I Googled it. So I went there. They said, sure, we'll give you there's one other person who's applying. We have just gotten a grant for a second person. We can both do it. You guys can both do it. So we both went. The other girl was a pain in my rear end, but whatever. We went, and while I was there, I realized that I absolutely hate dermatology. I just wanted to do the surgeries, and their surgeries were tiny. So I was like, I'm not gonna spend 4 years doing medicine just to be shaving off things and doing Botox. Nope, I need to figure something else out. Then I found out that in OBGYN, I could also do the cosmetic part. So I was like, you know what? And then I started exploring it. I came back to the US. When I was stateside, I started doing things that just made me know this was a perfect fit. I have never looked back. I am going to extra training in the near future to do some more cosmetic stuff, but that's for another day.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there are a lot of people saying that they're changing their minds even at this stage, kind of what they like and what they don't like. And I feel like shadowing really helps with that, to kind of see, you know, where you see yourself, where you don't see yourself.
May I say this also? Go to medical school with an open mind, very open mind. I wish I did. I didn't have an open mind. I was determined that I was going to go to work in Prada and red bottoms, pretty much. But I want you to be very, very open, because you might find out your niche without knowing. It's the same way people talk about dating. Like, go in there open-minded. Don't have a closed mind. Don't say, oh, I need a 6'4", this and that. You know, he must be from this area. He must do that. No, because you're not creating the human, right? So go into things with an open mind. Have your preferences, but have an open mind so you can experience things in their fullness.
Great, thank you so much for that advice. There were several people wondering, you were talking about how you had scholarships for medical school, and they were wondering, how did you secure scholarships for medical school? I feel like there's a misconception that we have to take out a ton of loans to support ourselves through schooling.
That's a good question. So the admissions committees consider people for scholarships. So I got mine through the admission committee, every school. And then I'm a Nigerian woman. I know how to haggle. So one school gave me a full scholarship. Well, the first few schools I got into were giving me like $5,000, $10,000 a year. And then all of a sudden, Morehouse came through and they gave me a full scholarship. So I took that letter to everybody else. And I was like, look, a whole school, it's a whole medical school. And I will be going there if you don't give me a full scholarship. And they were like, let's look into our little thing. And they looked, they're like, oh, we found some money here. And then they'll add it to your scholarship. So yeah, that's how that happened. Don't, like I said, no will never kill you. Ask, do you guys have scholarships for this? Do you have scholarships for that? You know, do you have any awards or grants? Do you have any, especially if you've already gotten in, you know, now you're the chooser. You can then start asking for those things.
Yeah, it's good to know, because I think a lot of people have that misconception that it all has to be loans and you don't have any control. So that's good to know. Someone else asked about how you feel like your MPH has helped you. Is it useful? Is it worth getting, especially right now? Just a little about that.
Oh, that MPH. $72,000 for a piece of paper. That's what I feel about it. It probably got me into physician leadership. I worked in the public health sphere during my gap years. So that was good. It probably made my medical school application great. It made my residency application great because I also had written some papers in the public health sphere. So I would say that's what I would say is that, you know, it's not necessary, but it's kind of helpful, especially if you're doing a gap year and you have no clue of what to do. You'll have that degree and it'll be helpful. Would I do it again? I say probably 70% yes, I would do it again. Definitely not 100% that, you know, I would do it again.
Yeah, that's good to know, especially since I'm doing that as well. So,
did I take a gap year? I took 2. I had an MPH and an MHA during my gap years. I guess 3 because I did the fellowship between my 3rd and 4th year of med school. Gap years are great. You go into places like a human being, an adult. Because going straight through, I could see the maturity different, or the maturity level difference between people who go straight through and people who take gap years. And where I see the difference kind of even out is after 1 or 2 years of residency. But in medical school, the things people whine about, we didn't whine about. Like, we were like, thank God we don't have to work a 9 to 5 because we worked it and we didn't like it. So I think I kind of saw a couple of things because I probably have to go back to clinic really soon. My fibroid training was 1 year. I taught myself how to do robotic surgery by the robotic reps kind of teach you how, because they're not teaching me how to do surgery. I know the anatomy, I know the surgery steps, is just using the instrument. So I actually taught myself, got the reps to kind of take me through a formal training. And then I started going to the simulator lab. I would go on Saturdays, Sundays, I'll be there half a day. I would go after clinic. I would stay there for like till midnight in a cold room, dark, by myself. I did that for like 4 months during the pandemic, really. And then I started doing, because I wanted the new technology to offer to some of my patients who come in and want the new technology. Before that, I was doing straight stick laparoscopy.
Great, thank you. I guess, you know, you said you have to go soon. So for the final question, what advice would you give us, pre-med students, undergrads, some post-docs, you know, applying to medical school for the future, especially now during COVID?
That's a really good question. The first, it's gonna be a couple of things I'll say. The first thing is apply wide, apply to many programs, and let it whittle itself out. If you get 10 no's and you get 2 yeses, well, that's where you're gonna, you know, you only need 1 yes. The other yeses are for bragging rights with your friends, and no one cares about that because in 5 years, nobody remembers how many programs you got into. Number 2 is work early in terms of getting your letters of recommendation, because the doctors that you're asking for a letter of recommendation usually don't know you. And because you don't have a chance to shadow like you would. And they are very busy because they're also trying to make up income that they lost during the pandemic, because almost every doctor lost money during the pandemic. So they're like, for me, I had 38 surgeries scheduled that were all canceled during the 6 weeks we couldn't operate. And so I had to move them over. So that's one thing I would say. And then 3 is give yourself some grace. Like, like one of my friends says, it's a pandemic, you know, give yourself some grace. Like, allow yourself, it's okay if you don't feel like doing something. It's okay, you know, as long as it's not consistent. Don't do it that day. Apply when you can. That's life.
Great, thank you so much. I went ahead and put your Instagram handle in the chat and the name of your podcast because there were some people wondering how they could contact you.
Yeah, that's great. I'm happy to answer questions. I answer all DMs, albeit not the same day sometimes. And sometimes my assistant will hop in and help me. You can also put in my email, the one I gave you, the Dr. Arumala, my email is drarumala@gmail.com. Elise Smith, who is my brand manager, will respond to you. She's usually slow at it, but she will get there.
Great, thank you so much. This was really insightful. We learned a lot, and your advice